Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We have a lot to talk about today. Some of this could be slightly alarming. Before we even get to all of that, I want to talk about her credibility. And there's a reason I'm bringing this up. She is the woman behind the largest natural wellness center in the region, maybe even the country, in terms of the unique healing that she offers through energy, Reiki, and more. I'm speaking about the Reiki Center. Uh, she's got a lot to talk about. I'm intrigued. I want to hear from Linda Haley. She joins us. Welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I have to be honest with you. Some of the things that we're about to talk about, a little concerning. And I only know a little bit about it based on a short conversation with you. Um, what's going on? There's an arrival of the best description I have, extraterrestrials. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, actually, they do not like the term aliens. They actually see us also as possibly alien to them. So a lot of terms do apply: off-world beings, non-terrestrials, extraterrestrials. They will even refer to themselves as that. So I have had relationships with them for quite some time. It took me a very, very long time before I would even believe that this was happening. And then much longer before I could tell anybody, because you know what happens to people who talk about seeing off-world beings, and at some point your credibility is shot, and at some point you're ostracized. So I didn't have any interest in doing that. So it took me a long time to be able to have the courage and the confidence to say, this is real.
Well, there's a lot on the line. And again, I go back to the beginning why I wanted to establish your credibility. You're not just some woman throwing some ideas out there. You've been practicing healing people with a very respected wellness center for many years. And this came to light. I guess that's the best description. Why do you think? Well, let me before I even ask that question, whatever we're talking about here made contact with you?
Yes. I absolutely was not looking for this. It wasn't anything that was at all in my wheelhouse or anything that I wanted to do. I, in fact, was raised in a haunted house when I was a kid, and it was truly terrifying, the things that happened. And so it got to the point that it was like, I don't want to have anything to do with anything that's weird. Yes, I understand there's probably angelic beings. Yes, I understand that my great grandmother could visit me. I don't want to have anything to do with it because I was so scared off by everything that happened to me that I didn't understand. So I shut down. I shut down a whole part of myself for a very long time. And that also includes a lot of the intuitive things, because I thought this isn't socially acceptable and it's frightening to me. And so I'm just not going to deal with it. But I do have a wellness center, and it is called the Reiki Center. And I am a Reiki practitioner by trade. I do a lot of other things, but Reiki is the first thing that I did. And because of that, when I started the business, which was initially just a massage table out of the back of a car, I called it the Reiki Center because it was the only thing I knew how to do. So we've grown to probably 70 or 80 different modalities. We've got almost 40 different practitioners right now. But it's called the Reiki Center because of Reiki. And Reiki is a Japanese technique for pain and stress reduction. It's practiced all over the world. It's very relaxing, and it has some pretty remarkable benefits. So I was working with a client that I'd known for about 10 years, and he was on my table going into a very deep relaxation. Some would almost say a meditation. And during the session, he started talking. Well, that wasn't unusual for him because sometimes he would ask questions. But this time, another voice came through. And this voice said, "Do not be alarmed. I'm Avatar from the fifth dimension. And we need to let people know that we are coming." And I thought, right, this isn't happening. And then that's actually when the story starts.
You beat me to it because I was going to ask you if you feel this is connected to the fifth dimension. I feel that we should explain that a little bit more for people, what the dimensions that we're talking about. It's my understanding that most of us are sitting in the third dimension. Some of us have kind of dipped a toe into the fourth dimension, or maybe a little bit more. And then there's the fifth dimension. I throw it to you now.
Well, you probably, my guess is you've already jumped into the fifth dimension. People who are third dimension, which is pretty much everybody on the planet, are very involved with material things, money, job, the physicality of life, and dealing with the details that may involve things that are very brain centered. So I have to remember to do lists, and I have to, follow up on the list. And that's very much focused up here. So we often say people who are very brain centered, are probably very left brain. Well, what has happened is that we're going into a period of time called the shift. And I hope we get a chance to talk about that in a bit. But the shift says that you're going to start moving your awareness from thinking to feeling. And people who are more heart centered will often say that they're actually moving more and more into the fifth dimension. So
Hmm.
that actually, most of the people who are more aware, who are interested in some of these topics, who probably listen to your shows, these are people who learn to connect compassionately. They are more aware of what's going on with the world and with themselves and society. And there's still challenges that come with it. It is not easy to move into the fifth dimension, especially if everybody around you doesn't understand who you are and what you're talking about.
I can completely relate to all of this. I have lists all over I loathe all of that. I don't want to do it.
I
A
know,
lot of it has to be done
I
to
get
make
it.
sure things get done, but it's just the bane of my existence. I don't want to do it. I want to do heartfelt work.
I get it.
Talk about this kind of stuff, spread the word about all of this. I had a conversation even last night with somebody, and it was presenting, the logistical challenges, and they're like, "Why do you hire somebody to do that?" I'm like, "Yes, I got to put that on the list." Um, how do you know? And we're going to get back to the arrival and your book in just a moment. We're going to
Sure.
shed light on that as well. How do you know that you've made your way into the fourth dimension and or the fifth? And by the way, I never thought myself as being in the fifth, but every once in a while, as I have conversations like this, a piece of me says, yeah, maybe there's a piece of you in the fifth. But how do you know you're there?
Well, actually, I think that most people are moving from third to fifth. The fourth dimension is usually the zone of beings who have a higher vibration that are kind of trapped between worlds. So you think of ghost, you think of some of the earthbound spirits, you think of things that couldn't possibly exist, the cryptids and some of the mythical beings. Those are actually more the ones that live within the fourth dimension. So the fourth dimension is the element of time and kind of the,
Hmm.
the twisting of space. So when you start moving into the fifth dimension, which is where I'm pretty sure you are, even though we have to dip our toe back into the third just for survival. But the fifth dimension is the area where you start to become more compassionate. You start to become more intuitive. You perhaps have, just awareness of things that might happen. But what is really happening is that when you start moving into the fifth dimension, you start reevaluating who you are. You start thinking more, who am I? Not so much what do I do, but who am I? There's a big difference between doing and being. And we
Hmm.
all have to do something. But when you understand who you are, that puts a different element on it. That brings in the concept of, but do you enjoy what you're doing? Because if you're not happy, what difference does it make what you do?
Or what dimension you're in? Yeah. Is there anybody at this point in time that can be fully in the fifth dimension?
I think there are. I think that most of the times that many of us, do feel like we're in the fifth dimension. Maybe we have quiet time. Maybe we're next to a sea side. Maybe we're watching a waterfall or a symphony. That puts us in the fifth dimension. That gives us an opportunity to kind of show appreciation and gratitude. Uh, I think that just being here on this planet and having a physical body, you do have to have an awareness of physical space. And so every so often, yes, we do have to be back in the third dimensional world, even though most of us don't really want to be.
Okay. So, need to ask the question, what's coming? What do you believe? What have you been told? What should we expect? Should we be concerned?
Um, I'll try to answer it as much as I understand. So, yes, there is a major transition that is coming. Some of us have already started to feel it. So many people said it had to do with the astrological age of moving into the age of Aquarius, which actually started in the early 80s. And
Can
that's
I
a
can I interject one thing here because I find it so interesting. When we talk about the age of Aquarius, there was a song came out in late 60s called Aquarius by the
Yep.
group The Fifth Dimension. Big hit song. How did they know about it then? Why did they call themselves the Fifth Dimension? And I never even, as a kid, I don't know, they could have been called, there was a group called the Raspberries. It could be anything back then. How do they know?
Actually, we've known for a long time that this period was coming. We knew that astrologically we were in a 2,000-year period called the Age of Pisces, and that was very male dominated. It was very warlike. And we knew that the next age astrologically was called the Age of Aquarius. And so some people said that it started just before the year 2000. Some people said that it
Hmm.
started 2012 with the Mayan calendar, but many people also said it started in that zone that was 20 years before. So people have known for a very long time, and people in the 60s were just starting to open up to all sorts of new things. That's why they would call it the New Age.
Hmm.
And a whole lot of New Age thinking started to come out, meditation and vegetarianism, and looking at religion in a slightly different way, and looking at ourselves and our body and yoga and everything in a slightly different way.
But
So
isn't
yeah,
it
people.
interesting back then that the general population looked at those people as like, look at those hippie freaks, oh, the
Uh-huh.
new age, yeah, Aquarius, love, area. No, they were onto something. And then guess what? We're embracing it now, 50
Yeah.
years later. I kind of laugh at it.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it's because the other way, I don't think is working. I think that
Hmm.
competition and warlike behavior, and look what's happening in the world right now. Everything that was created over the last decades and maybe centuries has now turned into communities, society that is being, very combative. And
Yeah.
there is a lot of anger in the world. And I think we're trying to change that. And hopefully the world will start moving into something that is less combative and angry and volatile.
More and more as time goes on, that kind of stuff, first of all, it doesn't feel good, but it feels even worse as time goes on, where you just want peace. You want inner peace. You want to feel good. Why do I want to have a confrontation with somebody? Just, it was like, it's 1969 all over again. Spread some love.
Right.
Why? But I feel that more of us are open to it now. And maybe that's the shift. Maybe that's the direction of the fifth dimension. What, when we talk about what's coming, you know, the first thing that conjures up is a, spaceship landing, beans. What is it?
So the shift is not just for us personally. Personally, it will change how we think, how we feel, how we interact with people. But because of that, that's also going to cause some challenges. And the challenges will be that personal relationships may fracture. It could be that something that you've loved doing just doesn't feel right anymore. It could be that the path that you were on seems like, wow, I just need to take a different path. So there are going to be a lot of changes because we're going to start looking at personal happiness and not so much, what would make the company happy or what would make the other people in my family happy.
Hmm.
We'll go into what will make me happy. In fact, even somebody asked the Dalai Lama, what's the purpose of life? And his response was to be happy. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Sure.
But then the other thing that's happening is that all of us are changing as society. And we've already seen that this is already happening because we've seen that there are so many massive shifts in politics, in religion, and education, and society, and corporate America, that there are so many massive changes. And yes, some of that was triggered by COVID. The pandemic changed a whole lot of things all over our country. But it's more than that. Look at what's happening in the world. There are more earthquakes and volcanoes than ever before. Places that were dormant are now waking up. And it was
Hmm.
said years ago that Earth is stretching, Gaia is stretching, which means that there is so much that is happening physically in the world that will impact us. Look at all of the melting of the ice caps and all of the glaciers. That's going to be raising sea level. That's going to impact all of our coastal cities. And then you
Hmm.
start thinking about what are some of the large societal things that have happened. The Me Too movement, George Floyd, the DEI movement, everything that is impacting us. We're also becoming more polarized. So there are more and more people on different sides of the equation saying, I am so firmly entrenched in this belief system, I will not even consider yours. That is going to create further polarization. But actually, it's even more than that because what is happening down here is not happening just on Earth. This is happening in a much larger scale. This shift, whatever this reset is, this transformation, is actually far larger than Earth. If you pay attention to what's happening in the cosmos, Saturn is losing its rings. There are more and more things that are being discovered that are farther and farther out. There are millions of potentially inhabitable planets based on the discussions with scientists that talk about millions of suns in millions of solar systems. So I think that it is absolutely incredible for some people to believe that we are the only inhabited planet in the entire universe. I think that's a little narcissistic.
I have to go with you there on it. Who's to say that there's not another planet? Why are we the only ones? And,
Yeah.
and there's lots of theories out there. Before we run out of time, your book, tell
Yeah.
us about that.
So I was asked by an extraterrestrial being to write the book, and I absolutely was opposed to it. And nobody knew that I had even been approached, but I was resistant. And then about a year or so later, the same being came in and said, What is your problem? Why are you not writing the book? Well, nobody knew that there was even a request or a demand to write the book. So the book did come out, and there was urgency in writing it because it had to come out just before the first Pentagon hearings. And the Pentagon now is, still talking about hearings, and some of the most recent communications is, nope, we don't have any proof about anything. Well, the proof is out there, to quote a TV show. The proof is out there, and it's just a matter of trying to open your eyes and ears. So the book is called Arrival of the Light Beings: How to Connect with, how to prepare for the shift and connect with extraterrestrials. The whole thing is a how-to. It's designed to help you understand what is happening, what is the shift, how to prepare yourself. There will be contact with extraterrestrials. And just to clue people in, it's not going to happen someday. They are already here. They have been here for a long time. They are in communication with many, many people, including people in our own government, and they're trying to prepare us for contact. The contact right now is primarily through individual channels, but at some point we've been told we're going to see ships all over the earth. But people need to know not all of the ships that you're going to see are aligned with humanity. We're turning into a battleground. And so some of the ships coming in have their own agendas, and some of the ships coming in are here to help humanity.
We're almost out of time, and
got it.
probably should have got here sooner because so many questions.
Sure.
I'm going to fire them off quick, and we'll next time we get together, re-engage and recap. So if you could keep them brief in the answers, but these questions need to be asked. How were you approached?
I was approached by someone who talked through one of my clients who I thought was asleep on the table, and then a voice came through.
Sleep on the table as you were doing Reiki. Okay. Next question. Why haven't they just shown up and presented themselves in a more widespread form?
So they're preparing quietly, but they are currently working. But let's face it, there are too many plans to be able to blow things out of the sky. What would happen if they suddenly showed up? My guess is our first approach would be to use the military, and not in a friendly way.
You said preparing for a battleground. It sounds like these beings are ready to fight, but it kind of in my mind goes against the whole fifth dimension shift. Explain.
Well, because there's another group that really wants to be able to turn us into a more violent population, and that side is currently very prevalent.
When you say another group, are we talking about two different sectors of these extraterrestrial beings?
I am. So
Interesting.
part of what people need to learn is if you do have contact with somebody who is a non-terrestrial, try to use discernment. Go into your heart and just connect and try to figure out, are you here to help, or are you here for your own agenda?
I have to tell you, Linda, I'm all of this. I'm on board. Reiki healing, the third, fourth, fifth dimension in my research and understanding and experience. I feel that there's something going on here. The extraterrestrial thing, my personal jury is out. I need to learn more, hear
That's
more.
fine.
But I have to tell you, you have an amazing way of being able to explain things and make it very clear. And it's definitely something worth looking into. I'm not saying this is not going to happen at all. It's worth by far looking deeper into it. And we will next time we get together. The book is officially out.
It is out. It's available pretty much everywhere.
Name of the book again.
Arrival of the Light Beings, How to Prepare for the Shift in Contact with Extraterrestrials.
Gotcha. As you said before, just be happy. That's all we want, and that's it. In my discovery, in my journey, when people used to say, peace be with you, peace be with you, I didn't even know what it meant. I don't know, what are you guys talking about? This peace be with you. And then I figured out, oh, you need peace. You need inner peace. Hopefully all of this does lead to it. Great talking with you today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, refreshing.
Yeah, I look forward to continuing the discussion.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. How do we find you, even if somebody wants to check out the Reiki Center?
Sure. The Reiki Center is Reiki's REIKI. So the ReikiCenter.net is our corporate website, and my personal is lindahaley.net.
Haley being spelled Haley, right?
LINDAHALEY.net.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch up again soon.
I look forward to it.
Same.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.